system at the
show. We're
Welcome
glad
back.
to be with you.
So glad to be back. We leave and the world goes to shit. Like, what the hell is happening? I mean, the White House has totally had the biggest fumble of their presidency so far. Like, what in the world is going on?
It's like we walk through a portal and Trump is Biden. Now we are somehow back in the Biden administration. We have big bloated bills. We have war with Ukraine, full on. War with Gaza, no stop. So yeah, that's where we are.
No
We're
Epstein,
right back there.
no Epstein files.
No Epstein. That was the Democrats apparently. Okay.
And then you have fawning freaking sycophants all over like social media. They're like, stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. Trump posted a post on Truth Social telling us not to talk about Epstein anymore. Well, that blew up in his face.
Yeah,
I mean, talk about getting.
I've been enjoying all of the. I've been enjoying all of the "Is this you?" tweets that that people like they're coming out saying we can't be talking about this, and then somebody's like, "Is this you?" And it's them saying we need to know this. Like, come on, man.
Right. We're through the looking glass. I don't know how we got here, Clayton. We came back to a whole other reality.
I know. I feel like I'm in a bizarro universe. You have Ben Shapiro telling us, hey, don't worry about it. Just believe what the government tells you. I mean, you have Dinesh D'Souza saying that. It's like, what happened to these people? Anyway, we've got a lot of news to get to on this Tuesday. We're glad to be back. We are going to talk about war in Ukraine. Why is the White House now about to send billions of dollars in weapons purchased through NATO into Ukraine? Zelensky just gave himself another 90 days of dictatorship power. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Epstein files and will Ghislaine Maxwell actually testify? Why is the Trump DOJ like stepping in and saying, no, we don't, petitioning the Supreme Court? Like, we don't want her to testify. Like, we want to keep this quiet. Again, what the hell is happening?
Makes no sense. Also, Israel is admitting to shooting children. This makes no sense. Here's how they say. They say that the bombs fell dozens of meters from the target. They were, in fact, aiming at terrorists, but the bullets fell away from the target. Clayton, is that how guns work?
Bullets just fell out of the gun.
We were aiming for that, but they fell over that way, dozens of meters from the target.
Yeah,
I have actually seen that happen on like Bugs Bunny and stuff, where bullets will be flying and then they just stop and fall.
Yeah, it shoots out with a little flag on it and then it falls to the ground. Yeah,
exactly. Is that what we're dealing with?
They think these morons. They think we're freaking idiots.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just sick of it.
Raise your hand if you buy this. What idiot would say, "Oh, makes sense. That happens. Sorry about that."
We're also going to talk about Europe today because I don't know if you've been watching what's happening in Spain. You probably haven't because CNN, Fox News, the mainstream media in the United States is just worthless. They haven't been covering what's happening in Europe at all. I mean, riots over the weekend throughout Spain. You have citizens in Spain just saying enough is enough. We want our country back. We want these illegal immigrants out of our country. It all started after an elderly couple was attacked by these Moroccan immigrants. So this is happening there, of course. We're seeing it in France. You're seeing it in Germany. You're seeing it in the UK. The UK, new statistics out, UK is now the rape capital of Europe. Thanks to all. That's great news for the UK. So we got a lot of stuff to unpack here on this Tuesday.
We went into the UK. We came back unraped. So that was our experience.
Speak for yourself.
Good for us.
All right, we're not fooling around. It's Tuesday. Welcome back to Redacted. So great. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. Thank you guys so much for seeking the truth here. We have no agenda. We're not paid for by investors. We're not paid for by Big Pharma. We are supported by you and the few sponsors we have here on the show. So thank you guys for subscribing and being a part of our community. Colonel Dan Davis is going to be joining us in a minute to talk about Ukraine, and then we will be talking about Epstein coming up right after that.
All right, but first we want to remind you that our show is brought to you by Shopify. Said that wrong, not Spotify. Shopify, in fact, is the place you go when you want to launch your business to the world. They help you with all things e-commerce, and they help you with everything you need to grow your business. What you're looking at there is the Redacted store, which does run on Shopify. So we can come up with these great ideas for things we think you might like. Communism equals starvation, a redacted shirt, a redacted mug, a redacted hat. And anytime we have an idea, we can launch it straight through Shopify. They allow us to take your money, not your money, I apologize, to take money from any customers who want to buy our stuff. And they help us every step of the way. So you don't need to know design, e-commerce, back end, any of that. They can take you from your first sale to your $1 million sale. It's easy as pie. So check them out. Head on over to shopify.com/redacted. Sign up for a 1-month trial period today today. Again, we are users of Shopify. We love it. So we want to see your business and your idea launched to the world. Head on over to shopify.com/redacted. One more time. That's shopify.com/redacted.
Bucker Bill in our chat says, are we going to talk about Trump being a Zionist? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly a Zionist supporter. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and a lot of people question, like, did he convert to Judaism secretly? I don't know. I know he went over and kissed the wall. So anyway, we're not talking about that right now, though. We're going to talk about Ukraine. We're going to talk about Epstein in a minute, though. But hey, the war in Ukraine, it's back on. Like, if you thought it was off and you're like done with it, sorry, it's back on fully now. And oh man, people are excited about this. President Zelensky changed the law once again to stay in power for at least another 90 days. So your little troll dictator is going to stick around for another 90 days, even though people didn't vote for this, but, you know, supporting democracy, right? So this is martial law and general mobilization, continuing to throw young men into the meat grinder so they can die for this globalist agenda. President Trump, though, on Monday announced that he would send billions of dollars worth of weapons to Ukraine, including what's included on this?
Everything.
Everything, he said. Would like, or are you going to send them, you know, the long range missiles? He's like, everything. Everything's on the table.
Does that include nuclear?
I don't know. I guess everything's on the table, Natalie. So yes, even long range weapons are on the table that were previously off the table. So now you can just, you know, attack Moscow if you want to, I guess. When asked directly about the limits, he just said, you know, everything's on the table. Senator Lindsey Graham, I mean, this guy just about had a wet dream over the weekend on this news, saying Trump's new weapons sales, it's good for America. Listen to this douchebag.
He has been trying to get Putin to the table. He believes Putin is playing him, and he changed the game today. What did President Trump do today? He's selling weapons to NATO to benefit Ukraine. It is good for the American economy. These factories that exist in America that make weapons, that will be selling those weapons to NATO. Europe will be paying for it, and Ukraine would benefit. But he also told Putin, I'll give you 50 days to end this war. And if you haven't come to the peace table to end the war by 50 days, in 50 days, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on all the countries that buy your oil and gas and defund your war machine.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Shut up, Lindsey Graham.
I have a problem with that because it's still the U.S. budget that pays for NATO, despite the NATO conference where Europeans said in the next 10 years we will pay more.
Yeah.
So the U.S. is selling weapons to NATO, which we pay for. So basically, it's a big money laundering scheme.
It's one, as the kids will say, it's one big circle jerk. No one better to talk about this whole weapons shipment and the craziness in Ukraine right now than Colonel Daniel Davis. Great American patriot, and here to call out the bullshit on all of this. Colonel, great to see you as always, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
So what the hell's going on? I mean, I thought we were going to have a peace agreement. Now we're doubling down and sending anything is on the table, long-range weapons. So we're fully back in this, Colonel. But hey, don't worry. It's good for the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, well, as long as it's good for the military-industrial complex, then there's going to be a lot of bombs and stuff, and people, they're going to make weapons.
This is the new pink salt recipe that took me from 179 to 126 in just 2 weeks. It's natural, easy, has no side effects, and takes less than a minute to prepare. The best part, just 4 ingredients.
And money, then cool, right? I mean, is that supposed to be the objective? You know, I'm not tracking with that. And, you know, we've a lot of people voted for President Trump because he said he was going to end this in a day. He said, I know Putin, I know Zelensky, I know what their pressure points are, and we'll get this thing done. And, you know, he had that big speech in Saudi Arabia a month or two ago talking about how no more wars in the Middle East and all this kind of stuff. And he seems to be going back on all of them. So I don't really understand what he's doing here and what the intent is, because if he claimed that this is going to help bring it into the war, but there is absolutely no path to doing that. And as a matter of fact, it's literally funding the opposite. So I don't know what he thinks this is going to accomplish, because even at face value, according to Axios, this was a total of about $10 billion worth of equipment. Well, you saw in 2024, Joe Biden had $61 billion of equipment, which absolutely was just had nothing, no success whatsoever. In fact, Ukraine lost, and there's probably many reasons for this, but they lost faster after that $61 billion was allocated, i.e. it did not stop anything. So why does anybody think about 1/6 of that amount is going to do anything now except maybe make Ukraine lose slower? I don't get it.
Such a smart point. Such a smart point. Like, the more money we put into this thing, the more likely it is Ukraine loses. Right?
That's been the result. Because, and it really, it's not too surprising when you drill down a little bit, because it's the manpower. It's always been the men, not the machines, not the money, not the ammunition. It's been the manpower. And Ukraine is in a death spiral. They'll never be able to come up with enough men to offset what the Russians can bring to bear. I mean, they literally have millions more from which to choose. Ukraine is in a forced mobilization period where they get between 20 and 25,000 a month. Russia is in a recruiting phase where they get between 30 and 40 and maybe even 50,000 in some months, et cetera. And you see, you can never escape the math of an attritional war. This is what we're in. And so I don't understand why people at the highest levels of our government don't understand the basic math of it. Forget about your preferences or anything else. Doing this will not change the math, and it will not change the deterioration on the battlefield. Ergo, it's going to facilitate Russia winning more Ukrainian land. That's the perverse bottom line.
Well, here's something that may be a clue into why is the president doing it. When you look at the big, beautiful bill, you notice that the estimates to the boost in the economy will be due mostly to tax cuts and increased defense spending. That's how the president has budgeted increasing the economy in the short term through the big, beautiful bill. And he needs that to happen. That's the same as what President Biden made the case. Like, hey, we're going to sell the weapons. We're going to make some money. It's going to be good for us, right? And so now I see no daylight between the intention of the Trump administration and the intention of the Biden administration, which is expanding the war industrial complex. Now, we talked about before we brought you on how the administration and Lindsey Graham is saying, no, but we're selling them to NATO. But again, we pay for NATO. So do you see this as a big money laundering scheme when there's nothing's going to change with the outcome of the war, as you just said?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's intentional or just as a byproduct, I mean, that's the net result that we can't argue about. But listen, there's bigger issues for our national security which need to be addressed and highlighted here. It doesn't matter so much who pays for these weapons. It matters the fact that we're getting them out of our inventory. And it's already been, it was Bridge Colby and several others talked about in the last couple of weeks, how the reason we put some of these last pauses on the shipment going to Ukraine was because our stock were getting too low. They were getting below the critical need that we need, should we need them in our own defense. And so instead of saying, yeah, we can't give any more, because our production capacity is so slow in comparison that we don't have time to replace these losses. So now, instead of saying, no, we're going to not go down too low with our own stockpiles, we're going to go down faster. And I just don't understand why we're literally playing with our own national security. And you look at what happened with Israel, what's happened with Iran, and now what's going on with the Ukraine, et cetera. Our THAAD missiles, for example, a key issue here. We used about 15 to 20% of our entire arsenal in that last barrage, that so-called 12-day war that we engaged in of our THAAD. That means our national security is now at risk if we need theater ballistic missile protection anywhere in the world. And unfortunately, that just doesn't get enough notice, and I think it needs to get more so.
Can I ask you some tactical stuff here about Ukraine? Where do we stand in this war? I just saw someone in our chat room just saying, guys, remember, like over 100,000 people, 100,000 young men in Ukraine have now deserted, soldiers leaving the front lines, running away if they can. Young men being conscripted, grabbed off the street, thrown into the meat grinder. I don't know how many of these people they have left. Can you talk about the tactics here? Like, what is the overall tactical strategy going up against Russia right now? They're being decimated.
Yeah, it's the number that I've actually seen. The most credible number is about 225,000 have been deserted, not just 100,000, unless that was over a narrow period. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that figure. But in terms of the strategy, I had a pro-Ukrainian person on my show a couple of days ago, and asked the question because I pointed out the realities on the ground that clearly they don't have the manpower, they don't have the equipment. These drones are going to continue to fly in. The missiles from Russia, no matter what Trump does, you won't have enough to knock them all down. And I said, what is the path? Because you see that with enough time, an attritional war will eventually grind you to literal nothing and you'll lose everything. And he said, we're just hoping for a miracle. We're just keeping fighting one day at a time, just hoping for a miracle, holding Russia back as fast as we can. But on the battlefield, what they're doing is they're trading time for space in the hope that something miraculous would happen. There's no rational basis for that hope, but that is what they're doing. And that's why they keep fighting, just in this hope that something changes, which is a terrible thing to do because that forestalls making a rational choice of let's have a negotiated settlement that ends with ugly terms, and they would be ugly right now, but would stop the killing and stop the loss of any more territory, as opposed to hoping for this miracle. And if it doesn't come, you could literally lose everything.
And one of my fears is that this gives, inhuman creatures like Lindsey Graham the right to say, I told you so. You can't negotiate with Putin. So it is a stain on the efforts of diplomacy. So are we even going to try this anymore? We thought that if diplomacy had any hope, it would be with President Trump, definitely over Kamala Harris. And now it seems like that's been deflated and the bad guys now have the narrative.
I hate the way you put that, but it's hard to argue with any of it because, I had really hoped because Trump, was emphatic from 2023 on. He was always talking about, I'll have this war over in a day and, no more dumb wars and all that kind of stuff. And I genuinely thought he would do it. But then all of a sudden the days start turning into weeks, start turning into months, and every opportunity he had to use the leverage we have to compel a deal, the best terms that could come out for Ukraine, but that would force an end to this war. He just let it go. And then, he talked, remember, about 100 days. Kellogg said we'd have this done in 100 days. And then it was in April, he said, all right, we are days away from walking away from this. If we don't get it, that's going to be it. And then the days turned into weeks and again started turning into months. And now we have 50 days. And I don't know what any of these numbers mean because none of them have held. The only thing I can see, no matter what intent is that we're keeping it on life support, the war, so that it continues on. And, of course, that makes Lindsey Graham and all his folks really happy. And it just keeps the death toll climbing by the day in Ukraine, which is immoral and egregious in my view.
Yeah, maybe we can push it to 20 years like Afghanistan. Really enrich that military-industrial complex. I think that'd be great. Really fantastic stuff. Colonel Dan Davis from the Deep Dive. Always great to see you, and we really appreciate your insights on this. I think you're right. That 100 days have been squandered. Colonel Davis, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Always.
All right, coming up, we're going to... Oh, excuse me. I didn't mean to talk over him. That was rude. I need to get back into the routine.
Back into the flow.
I apologize. My timing was off on...
It takes 90 seconds for this NASA-engineered AC cool down your room. It's smaller than a toaster.
But coming up, we're going to talk about Epstein, why the Department of Justice has said we don't want the Supreme Court to hear the appeal of Ghislaine Maxwell. There was no client list, Clayton. There was no abuse that happened. It was only porn on Epstein's laptop. None of that happened. But Ghislaine Maxwell needs to be in prison. So that's weird, right? We're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about how Israel says that their bullets just fall away from targets. They're not targeting children, but children die because they just fall away. That's how... Yeah,
like when they're shooting, like when the Israeli soldiers are firing at aid workers, the bullets miss the aid workers and then go and kill the children. Like, that's the plan.
If that's true, if there were any plausible way to accept that as truth, maybe we would talk about competence of the people we send weapons to, right? Maybe that's a discussion.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first,
we just found something wild about stem cells. Pretty crazy. If you don't know, stem cells, well, the White House is in full damage control at the beginning of this week. Apparently, the White House is now going to perhaps start releasing more Epstein information, according to sources. But why are they walking this back? I'll believe it when I see it. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell. To me, this is the biggest story. On Monday, the DOJ asked the Supreme Court to deny Maxwell's appeal of her sex trafficking conviction. But just last week, in a separate case, the DOJ claimed there was no Epstein client list. No evidence of ongoing trafficking, no basis to pursue charges against the powerful men who frequented the homes, islands, private planes, all of that. So which is it? If there was no trafficking network, no clients, no names, what exactly was Maxwell convicted of? Why is she in prison? Why is the DOJ pushing the Supreme Court to deny all of this? We wanted to ask Viva Frei, who's been following this as close as anybody. Get your legal mind wrapped around all of this, and he joins us now. Viva, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it's the saga that's not going away anytime soon, and the change in messaging is only causing people to have more questions. But yeah, I revisited a vlog that I did 6 years ago in August when I was on the coast of New Brunswick on a road trip, and Epstein had just allegedly taken his own life. Everything I said in that video 6 years ago could have been said yesterday. It's an amazing thing. Like 6 years later, we have no more answers. And unfortunately, we just have more questions.
It's really disturbing. Why would the DOJ ask the Supreme Court to deny this appeal? What do you make of that?
The bottom line, the argument that is being presented now, or the theory, is that the sex trafficking wasn't for third-party unindicted co-conspirators. It was just sex trafficking for Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual predilections. And so they were trafficking young girls in for his massages with the method that he enjoyed the ending of these massages. And so the argument now, as far as I understand it, is that the trafficking for which Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted and, Jeffrey Epstein was charged, was just for the two of them, just for Jeffrey Epstein. And that there were, in fact, if there ever existed such evidence of, powerful people who were being blackmailed or partaking in the trafficking, the evidence doesn't exist now. And, Trump has come out and said the file was cooked, deleted, tampered with, which is incidentally something I've sort of been suggesting from the very get-go, that the FBI coming in now and relying on the very same FBI file prepared by the very same criminal FBI that they are now pursuing criminal investigations into was about as reliable as a $3 bill. So to say that we've definitively concluded he killed himself, there was no blackmail material, no Epstein client list, based on the file prepared by the FBI that we're now investigating for criminal corruption, it's not reliable. So how could they assert that as a matter of fact and not as a part of the conspiracy itself? So, that's a long-winded answer. I think the argument now that they're presenting is that the trafficking was for Jeffrey Epstein alone, for his own personal pleasure. The videos that he had were for his own personal pleasure. There was no network involving Prince Andrew, other prominent political figures. And the people who visited the island might just be caught up in this, and we don't want to release their names because they'll be dragged through the mud just by guilt through association. People aren't buying it, unfortunately.
No, I think this is the biggest fumble of Trump's presidency so far. And this idea, this narrative that started unfolding over the past few days from the Trump administration that there's nothing to see here, stop talking about Epstein, move on. Then you had, I guess, some MAGA influencers, like Ben Shapiro, and you have others like Dinesh D'Souza who are out there saying, yeah, all right, let's just move on. Like, we're just going to take this. But you and I and millions of other people are not taking that as the answer. And I think they're on damage control now. The White House is now basically saying, Laura Trump in an interview saying, yeah, they realize that people want more on this. They're going to start to release more information here, and they're kind of backtracking on this. What do you expect we're going to see from Pam Bondi, from the DOJ?
Well, we're going to see, hopefully, Benny Johnson reporting that there's going to be a change in tack, a change in strategy, that they've heard the voices of the people. And, I'm saying this clearly not from a position as being someone who's anti-Trump. You can see from my backdrop, one of the more vocal supporters of Trump, I think his presidency was a necessity, an existential necessity. It's here. That doesn't mean
us too.
No,
we feel the same way. We feel the same way.
I don't get called anti-Trump by any serious people. I think it's, and I'm not trying to be demeaning, it's like trolls, because nobody who knows my history could possibly say that. I'm not a sycophant in the sense that I believe the people you like need to be criticized when they're making an objective mistake. When Ben Shapiro came out and said, who cares about the JFK files, he got lambasted. And so the idea that people come out now and say, who cares about the Epstein files, Everybody cared about it. Pam Bondi cared about it. Bongino cares about it. Patel cares about it. Trump, it was a not central election issue, but it was a key campaign issue. To come out with that truth post, which I think, and I tweeted it, I think it's the biggest mistake of his presidency, including first term, to say, who cares? This guy's been dead. We've talked about him enough. Move on. And then to have people just almost like 1984 Orwell change the script mid-script, like, yeah, Epstein. Oh, who cares? Move on. It's a big
gaslighting.
It's gaslighting, and like you're dealing with like betraying people who are the most salt of the earth, diehard Trump supporters. It would have been one thing to say, "Holy crap, I've looked at it. It's a national security issue. We can't release this." That would presuppose that it's true. Some people are saying it's not a national security issue. Unfortunately, there is just no there based on a file that came from the FBI that is a corrupt criminal organization under Biden. People are still asking the question, okay, fine, the FBI file might be empty because Comey and Brennan and whoever, destroyed it. What about the intelligence file? Like, what does intelligence have on Epstein? You have Jim Acosta allegedly saying, I was told Epstein is intelligence, leave him alone. I don't care that the Daily Beast reports that. These are meaningful things that you can't just say volte-face out of blue. Who cares? Move on. Especially contemporaneously with Netanyahu visiting the States a number of times. What many people believe was the first misstep of Iran. So you're trying to make people believe the unbelievable. And had the messaging just been different, like, we can't release this now, we're very sorry, would have been different. National security issue would have been different. People could say, I knew it, and now we can move on, and when it's time, we can release this. But to come out and say, who cares, and then have big accounts browbeat the people who put Trump in office into silence. Shut up, you're anti-Trump if you push this issue. Shut up, you're anti-pedo if you push this issue. It's the most insane 180 browbeating gaslighting you can imagine. And Trump needs a vote for the midterms and for 2028. And it's not the best way to go about this. So hopefully they change tack. But my goodness, it's an unforced error of the highest order.
I want to circle back on Ghislaine Maxwell here in a minute, but I want to kind of play off a point you just pointed out about, like, where do these members, where do people sit on all of this issue? House Republicans rejected an amendment demanding the government release all Epstein files on Monday, with every GOP member of the House Rules Committee except Ralph Norman and Chip Roy, if I'm not mistaken, opposed this proposal. And Roy didn't vote. Norman, I think.
Cool any room in 90 seconds with this NASA-engineered affordable device. It's smaller than a toaster, cools any room in 90 seconds, and uses just a fraction of the energy of a regular AC. This incredible invention was built by two engineers, Thomas Berger and Leo Garcia, who used to work on thermal control systems for NASA space missions. They were tired of seeing people struggle every summer with broken ACs, $300 power bills, and unbearable indoor heat. And when a power outage during a heat wave left their family sweltering with temperatures soaring past 90 degrees, they decided to take matters into their own hands and create a groundbreaking portable AC capable of cooling down any room in a matter of minutes without the big costs. The two engineers, Thomas Berger and Leo Garcia, knew that traditional air conditioners were inefficient and expensive to use, so they reverse-engineered how traditional ACs waste energy, and then applied the same thermal control principles they once
supported the measure. Congressman Ro Khanna is out there. He's the one that pushed this. He basically said, I want to know where you guys really stand on this. We should all be able to, as members of Congress, put our names on this. Do you support this, or do you want to continue to hide this? House Republicans rejected this amendment? What? What do you make of that?
Ro Khanna has been the only Democrat that I've ever seen who's mildly reasonable. I went through my Twitter feed, and I've never taken a shot at him because he seems to be reasonable. Lord knows, I hate to play the what if game. Had this been a year ago and the Biden administration done exactly this, people would be screaming bloody murder, like, no doubt. So you do give your friends and your allies the benefit of the doubt that you might not give to demonstrable criminals like the Biden administration, like the Biden's FBI and DOJ, Merrick Garland, et cetera. But my goodness, it would be feigning disbelief to say, well, it's okay now because my side is doing it. Obviously, the people are not buying it, the people that Trump needs to vote them in. And people, if it's a 4D game of chess and Trump has successfully got the Democrats to try to get the release of the Epstein documents, and that when they're released, well, then they asked for it. It would be great, but you don't get to deceive your supporters even in this attempt to try to get your enemies to demand the release of the information that you want released, but for whatever the reason you can't release it. So it is wild. Had the tables been turned, people would be screaming bloody murder, and it is the ultimate irony in all of this. Now you got Kevin Spacey on Twitter saying release the files, and you've got Republicans blocking it with no explanation. National security issue. Okay, if the explanation is that we don't want to release CSAM into the public. I don't know if I guess child sexual abuse material, CP, everybody knows. Nobody wants that. Like, nobody is asking to release child pornography. And for anybody to make that argument, oh, now you want us to release it? It's a disingenuous gaslighting argument. Nobody wants that. The questions that people have are the people involved in the CSAM CP. Was it only Epstein? Was it produced by other people? If it was produced by other people, who were those people? Who was featured in it, other than the victims? When you have Bondi coming out in February with a memo to Patel saying the FBI Southern District of New York field office is not respecting demands for communication of the files to me, and I want everything, including a list of Epstein and his clients. This was in her letter. To then come on and say, there's no clients, nothing to see here, who cares about it, move on, and we're blocking any requests for the release of the documents. Oh, and you don't get to see CP, as if anybody ever wanted that. I mean, it is bizarre. My only hope is that there's a national security reason, there's a strategic reason why this is happening, or that Trump hears and says this is going badly, and not going badly because people are stubborn and they just want their cake and eat it too. It's going badly because people are losing faith in Trump to go after the deep state. And if the excuse is there's nothing there because they destroyed the evidence, great. Appoint a special counsel, see who destroyed the evidence, see who cooked the books, see who wrote the memos, and then go right back to Acosta's a warrant, arrest, sweetheart plea deal of Epstein, and start from scratch if the entire file has been tainted. Start from scratch, even if it doesn't result in criminal convictions or even charges because of the statute of limitations. Right. Get an independent voice in there and start from scratch and make the file that is clean as clean could get now, and at least, name the names of the people who were involved in Epstein's orbit of sex trafficking of minors.
Yeah, interview the victims. Actually interview Les Wexner. I mean, for crying out loud. Why was he never part of this process? Why was he never interviewed? Now we have this appeal from Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, will Ghislaine actually testify before Congress? And if not, why is she still behind bars, given what the DOJ has said about Epstein? Why is she still sitting there?
Yeah, I mean, she partook in sex trafficking. The only question is, was it only to Jeffrey Epstein? I don't think anybody believes that. But if that's the case, then you need to provide the evidence to satiate what are absolutely legitimate questions from the general public. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell coming out and testifying, this is I mean, first of all, there's nothing that she can't say by way of her lawyer now. The question is, what access to evidence does she even have? If the evidence has been tainted, whatever Ghislaine Maxwell is going to say now is either going to be unsubstantiated, unsubstantiatable, or contradicted by whatever evidence or lack thereof exists within whatever files left. So, but it is unfortunately, it's just implausible that you have Prince Andrew directly implicated in all of this, and yet we're told there was nobody else involved because it was only trafficking for Epstein. You have a lot of, I call it circumstantial evidence, but it's not circumstantial evidence when you have Epstein, after he's a convicted child predator, whatever the hell you want to call it, involved in business with Ehud Barak, who's visiting him 30 some odd times and claimed not to know of his criminal background. Incidentally enough, the business that Epstein was investing $1 million in, that Ehud Barak was running, was involved in online video streaming and geolocation services for security. But that's kind of an interesting dot if you choose to connect it. You got Ghislaine Maxwell's sister involved in this company called Kilion or something, which is about aggregating online data for the purposes of whatever one can only imagine, surveillance or other activities. So, but everybody after 20 years and 10 years of this being in the political limelight, I said a while back this was a litmus issue test for the Trump presidency. To come out now after promises made and being told there's nothing there and you're the problem for asking for it is a very, very big slap in the face. I don't know how you make up for it with the people, but you have to, because A, you need their votes if you want to don't want to get demolished in the midterms in 2026, and you need their votes in 2028. And the argument that some people have been pushing and imposing on the internet, well, you better accept it because the alternative is worse. That's not the most compelling argument, because what happens is people get browbeaten into silence, and you don't win elections with a silent majority, minority, whatever, that doesn't turn out to vote. So people have been slapped in the face with this. And then
I'm not going to sit back. I'm not going to sit back and take that. Shut up. You're not allowed to ask questions about Epstein anymore. Like, this case is closed. There's nothing to see here. He was just a creepy guy. Oh, okay. What about his intelligence connections? How does this guy have billions of dollars from tax advice? Like, there's, a laundry list of questions. Why wasn't Les Wexner ever involved in any kind of questioning? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell still behind bars? If she wants to talk, as the Daily Mail's reporting, come on out and talk. We'd love to have her testify in open court. This is ridiculous that you're just going to sweep this under the rug and shut up. Go back to your life. Ignore Epstein. You've got more important things to worry about, like your gas bills and your cost of eggs in your house. Shut up.
Well, the reality,
infuriating.
They might be right. You've got more important things to worry about, and this is going to tank all of that because it's a sufficiently big issue. But the left, the meme is everybody I disagree with is Hitler. Now it's turned into like everybody I disagree with. You have people saying I care about child sexual abuse, and I'm not dropping the Epstein case. And then you have people trying to flip the argument to say Trump and the FBI has done more to combat child trafficking than the Biden admin, which is true. But if you keep pushing this Epstein case, then you're the one who's actually supporting child pedos and whatever. It's really, it is a form of psychological abuse to have the people who have been legitimately, consistently concerned about this for nearly a decade now have the very same people who put it on blast say, no, you're the problem if you continue with your insistence on the importance of this story. I do think, happily and luckily, Trump does listen to his base, and he listens to the replies on truth. And there was no way for Trump to ignore what I think was nearly unanimous condemnation from that truth post in the replies on truth. And when you have people saying, I voted for you 3 times, but this is breaking my heart. I mean, that's almost worse than saying F off, I'm never. That's people saying, you're actually hurting me with this. I've supported you. I've been through thick and thin. I've lost friends. I've lost, jobs potentially. And now I feel absolutely betrayed by this about face. I think he's heard, and they've got to look at the excuse. Also, I want to make sure I'm right about this, but the excuse that it's under court seal from various court orders, I'm fairly certain the AG has the power to do something about that. And so they're using arguments that they had never raised before. That it's sealed and they can't unseal it, or B, that it's been doctored by the prior FBI, DOJ. They never used those excuses before. And it's only in the face of them saying, who cares, move on, now that they have to.
If you're over 50 and can't see clearly, try this before anything else. Before you invest in another expensive prescription, you need to hear this.
Say, well, I can't unseal it anyhow because courts have sealed it. I think